This is an Empty Closet Radio podcast. Get more at facebook.com/emptyclosetradio.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Sam.
And this is The Empty Closet.
The show for everyone, whether you're in the closet
Or out and proud.
or somewhere in between.
101.9 Coast FM, you're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam, and on tonight's show we're going to be talking all sorts of good and bad news, I think, Sam, because you tend to send me very hopeful news stories and I sometimes find bad news stories.
This is true. We are also going to be talking a little bit of local news, including some local flavour Andrew's going to educate me about. And we're going to be talking a bit about housing, house hunting, housemates, and so forth. Now, if you do want to catch up on any past episodes, you can look for the podcast. Don't just look around you and hope to find it. Actually look online or on your favourite podcasting app. Empty Closet Radio. Hit the subscribe button.
Sam, you just made me think it's like an Easter egg hunt, you know, you just like, especially...
There's episode 63.
Oh, I hardly realised it was hiding behind that pot plant. Fortunately, they're a lot easier to find than lost Easter eggs that you find from the Easter egg hunt the year before. Don't look at me like there's that, Sam. That happened in my house all the time when we were growing up.
If you don't want to look on your favourite podcasting app, you can also look on our social media page. So you can look for Empty Closet Radio and hit the like button on the big blue book of faces, or you can look on the blue Twitty bird at emptycloset_AU, all lowercase.
You're on 101.9 Coast FM in the Empty Closet.
You bought yourself a little freedom. Yeah, I know you saved up, so make it last.
Empty Closet Radio. Listen to us using your TuneIn radio app on your smartphone. Very smart.
101.9 Coast FM, you're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. And Sam, I have to apologise because I feel like I misled, or I don't know if misleading you is the right words, but on last week's show, I told you that there was going to be a out party happening at the Casbah on Saturday night. And guess what happened on Saturday night?
No party?
That's right. There was no party. The doors to the Casbah were shut. And I have to apologise to everybody, but actually, at the last minute, the event was cancelled, which is very, very sad, I think, for our community, because Casbah was like one of those, there are some people that love the venue and some people that hate the venue. We're not going to rag on a business that's now no longer operating. But I think that it is very sad that it's one of the spaces in Cairns that was left that we were able to utilise, we being the LGBTI community, that we could utilise, even if it was just once a month, to create a safe space, to have a bit of a boogie, and there was some spaces where you could go and have a chat, and it was all it was private enough for people who weren't out yet, and it was there were some spaces that were public enough so that you could go and meet new people, and you could meet new other gay people. Sam's looking at me weird, what are you talking about, Andrew?
Just going to take the microphone off Andrew for a little bit, gentle dear. No, look, it is a disappointment. There have been some questionable venues over the years where sometimes the venue, you think, this is not really the place I'd pick for a rainbow event, normally because the local clientele don't seem to like the rainbow people.
I don't know exactly which venue you're talking about, but there are a few venues in Cairns that I walk into of a regular night, not when they have an out party, and I feel this is really not my kind of place. And sometimes I'm really nicely surprised that I am actually indeed made to feel very welcome. One of those venues was one that's a big old Queenslander type pub, And I walked in and I thought, oh God, we're going to get bashed up here. But I sat down with a gentleman across the table from me. We had dinner and then we got invited to go in the pool competition, and we went in the pool competition and we had some bubbles, and we had a grand old evening, and it was with other gay people. And I was like, this is random. This is like, it's not a gay night. It seems more gay in here than I've ever seen before. So very surprising. But I think it's a bit sad that we have lost a venue that has supported us for a while. But we spoke to the boys who organise the out parties, and they reckon they've got another venue lined up for next month. So I think it's really important that next month we really get behind them, get behind the community, and make sure that we do have a well-attended event, I think. And it's really good because it's the only time that we get together and kind of see each other, I think.
So is there any queer events coming up?
Well, Sam, funny you should mention that, because I just go through my diary every week before the show, and we look at what things are coming up, because I sign up to like every mailing list that I can about things that are happening in Cairns. And one of the things that Sam spotted in my diary was an event called the Naked Night. I think
you actually had it labelled Naked Sex Party.
No, surely not.
Yes. Surely yes.
I'm blushing. Sam, I need to explain. And I think I should start by explaining I've been to one of these parties before, and I went along. And the first time that I went, I actually thought that it was like an underwear party. And so I invited one of my friends who identifies as trans, and he, as a trans man, and he came along, and we're at the front door, and we've both stripped down to our underwear, and the guy behind the counter, he's like, oh, you have to, you can't wear your jock strap, like, you've got to put it all in the bag to put it in the cloakroom. And I was like, oh, sure, no worries. So I took mine off, and my friend just looked at me, and he's like, Andrew, I'm trans. I can't believe that you neglected to tell me that this party involved me not wearing anything below the belt. Nothing. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, do you not forget, like, a bit different down there sometimes? It was the most funny. It was kind of like, it was funny, and it was, no, because it ended out great. Sam, don't look at me like that. It ended out great because he actually said that it made him feel good, because I didn't think that it was, that I hadn't crossed my mind that it was important to tell him that. And Sam, he had a better time than me at that party.
I have to say, as someone who would be extremely uncomfortable being asked to remove undergarments when I wasn't expecting to, aside from the fact that your friend was trans and should maybe have been warned, anywhere where you're expected to get naked, you should probably warn people. Just a tip for the future.
Well, all I can say is that, like, I actually, you know what? I don't really have much to say. It was fine. Everybody had fun. It was fine in the end. It was very funny. I had a few giggles. You're on 101.9 Coast FM in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam.
Really, I've been seeing something, but
Empty Closet Radio. Like us on Facebook.
You're on 101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. And Andrew, you've been hitting the impossible, or attempting to hit the impossible dream these last few stretches of time.
Well, Sam, I'm very proud to say that last month I gave up eating smashed avocado on toast, and
now you own a castle.
Oh, yeah, who knew? I wish it was that easy. So in case you are a bit lost about what we're driveling on about, is I am smack bang in the middle of the biggest house hunt of my life, because for once I'm actually looking for a house or a home that is going to be more than just a 12-month lease, or just a 6-month lease, or just a couple of years. I'm actually wanting to try and buy my own property, which is super scary. It's like the most adult thing that I've ever done, because because I don't even own a car, Sam. Like, I don't own, like, anything. The most complicated thing that I own is a laptop, and most people get those in high school. So, this hunt has been, like, non-stop. Like, it's ruthless. Every couple of days, I go and look at other apartments and more places to live and different parts of town and trying to figure out whether I'd be happy living there or not. And, surprisingly, the apartment that I've looked at that is the closest to where I currently live, like, literally, it's not even 100 meters from my front door, from my current front door. And that's the one that I've liked the most. And so I've gone through the scary process of, like, putting in an offer and being like, here is how much money I am willing to pay you for that tiny cupboard of an apartment that probably could do with a few extra windows, because it has to be cyclone proof. There's not many.
You do live in far north Queensland. Like, cyclone proofing is actually important, dear.
I know. But it's a bit like, I'm feeling really nervous about it. And it's not the nervous that you feel when you apply for a place to rent. It's not the nervous that you feel when you have to interview for new housemates. It's like, I don't know, it's a bit bigger than that. It's like butterflies in my stomach that will just never go away. But also feeling hungry all the time that just will never go away as well. It's weird.
Now, I am at a totally different place in my life to Andrew because I do not have the same kind of actual career job yet that he does.
You probably also didn't have some ex-boyfriend ages and ages ago that, like, stole all your money and you ended up on your parents' couch and then decided, I'm never going to let that happen again. That's basically what happened to me.
I did have an ex who still owes me like $10,000. So, yes.
Gasp.
Le gasp. So I'm well aware that our listeners are probably more like me, sans head injury, and are kind of, trying to work out what the next step is rather than putting offers on houses and trying to decide how many windows they need to live comfortably in the tropics.
Unfortunately, the answer is always more than what there are actually there. Because you're like, so everybody kind of goes through these different kind of, I guess you could call them seasons, like different seasons about their housing and where they live and who they live with. I know for a really long time I lived with my best friend and we went from like one rental property to the next. Like, honestly, we moved house like 3 or 4 times together. In fact, he still has all of my furniture that I bought that I had thought, when I was in Melbourne, I had thought one day I'll use this furniture to furnish my own place. And now I'm like, no, I'm not even going to bother shipping anything up. I'm just going to like do it up here. It'll be fine. But you're in the situation where you've got like, you're living with family again. And so you don't face those problems of moving house with housemates and that kind of thing.
No, but I did have to, for those who don't know, I had SAD's relationship breakdown at the end of last year. And given that I didn't have too long left of uni, although that's pushed back with this injury, I was like, well, I'll go to mum and dad's. So when I'm on placement and I'm not earning anything, I won't be really stuck about bills. And what that means is, like, I don't own a house, but I own all the things to fill a house. Like, I had a bed and a spare bed and a couple of desks. And so I could set up a room for a student. I had a good fridge. I had massive couch, chairs and tables and lots of bookshelves. And now I have a room and I have 3 bookshelves in the room, but I do not in fact have room for 2 beds, 2 desks, a couch.
If it makes you feel any better, the room is actually bigger than most of the bedrooms that I can afford.
Yeah, it's a nice spot. It's actually a converted garage. It works.
It's actually a shoebox and it's bigger than what Andrew can afford. Great.
No, it's not a shoebox. It's got space, but it's interesting because, like, I know people who've bought their house and they sleep on an airbed for a year, and have a bar fridge. And I've got like all this really good stuff to fill a house, but no house.
I feel like there's something in that. Maybe we can work something out, Sam, because all that I own fits in my bedroom right now. So,
Clearly you need assistance. You're on 101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam.
Every time we touch, short of the right. Empty Closet Radio, because no one else wants to be stuck in the closet. God.
101.9 Coast FM, you're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam, and we have been talking a little bit about housing because I'm in the middle of the great housing hunt, and I'm just at that stage, Sam, where I've put in an offer, but I'm waiting to hear back if they've accepted my offer or not, which is super scary because it's like I had to get a loan organised and I've got all this like liability just like sitting there on the table, and I'm like, are they going to touch it? Are they going to touch it? Are they going to touch it? And I'm like, maybe I should take it back. Maybe I should take it back for safekeeping.
But you were getting very excited going, now I know it's a bit presumptive of me. And then I was like, no, save it for air. So you have to tell me now.
I think my words, Sam, were I'm putting the cart before the horse because today I haven't even been like, there is not a single person who owns a house who has been like, hey, sure, Andrew, thanks for your offer. We'll sell you the house, that kind of thing. No one has said that to me. But somehow in my mind, I've like jumped to the stage where I'm like, all right, so once I'm in there, I'm going to redo the floors because the floors are a bit shabby, like the carpet's a bit shabby. So I was looking at laminate the other day, laminate flooring. That's ridiculous.
I love that because you used to complain to me about laminate flooring. You used to be like, oh, it's just so tacky, Sam. And I'm like, oh.
Well, it is a little bit tacky, and I found out that it's really not very good for North Queensland because apparently it can heat up and like warp and expand.
Yeah, most places with laminate get distortion, but then carpets, can end up moldy for like no reason. So, and also contain lots of dust and are warm on your feet.
Well, yes, all of these things, but it's not about the flooring that got me worried. What got me worried was I found myself also looking at furniture. And it's not that I really even needed this furniture. It was a spare bed for the spare bedroom. And I was like, oh, that would be so good. Oh, it's such a steal. Maybe I should get that. So much so that I even like messaged the person who was selling it. And they're like, so when are you coming around to look at it? And I'm like, oh wait, this is really instant for me to buy off of this website, isn't it? I don't know if I really want to go and look at it. Cause what if I like it and I have nowhere to put it yet?
You could store it in the garage like I store all my furniture.
I could put all my stuff... Wait, can I put it in your garage? Are you volunteering your garage, Sam?
I think it depends on how flat you can collapse that bed.
That is such a politically correct way of saying, no, Andrew, I'm not volunteering my garage.
Now, one thing I was laughing at / concerned about Andrew doing was the board of pins that you make on the internet with the red logo with a P in it. and you create these virtual pin boards of what you want, and I can just see Andrew's being full of modern designs and triangles and rainbows.
Funnily enough, Sam, that is exactly how my one started out, and I was like, oh, finally a social network that I might be able to like use at work because it's not filled with photos of naked men. And then you know what I did? I started a board that was like, here's some inspiration for tattoos. And then I started another board that was like, here's some inspiration for like things that you should do at the gym. And then all of a sudden, you know what it started presenting to me as? Things you might like.
Naked boys, I assume.
Naked, muscly boys. And now I cannot check that at work.
I have to ask though, when you were pinning things that weren't furniture for your dream house, were you ever pinning things that weren't attractive boys with tattoos or attractive boys at the gym? Like, be honest, Andrew.
Yeah, look, there were some good tattoos on boys that were not like A grade attractive, but they were like B grade.
So, no, is the actual answer there. I think I know why your feed was so full of naked men.
So now I really need to step it up on the, like, you know, house decorating pin board. I'll have to, like, really concentrate on making sure that that's all I pin and don't pin any of the other stuff so it doesn't get mixed up.
You can tell that I'm a bookworm because I have a book board, and then aside from that, all my dreams are inside. Like 90% of it is bookshelves, different types of bookshelves.
Do you know what all of my, like, ideal pins are for my house?
Triangles?
Nope.
What?
It's like, essentially, have you seen like the Barcelona Pavilion, where it's a house that has like glass walls, like every single wall is just glass? That is entirely all the houses that I pin. They're just like made, it's like somebody got like sheets of glass, dropped them, and they landed in some kind of weird pattern that vaguely resembles like triangle-y walls, and that's the kind of house that I want. It's like a greenhouse.
So you basically want to live in the Shard, but like smaller.
Yeah, except that it's actually impossible because A, it doesn't pass the cyclone testing stuff, which is kind of like, you know, important here. And B, it's very impractical in this hot weather because the solar gain issues are just terrible. It would be like living in an actual greenhouse. You're on 101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam.
Empty Closet Radio, facebook.com/Empty Closet Radio.
You're on 101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. Now, Andrew, I know that you like to get your news in easily digestible format, preferably with a video or a short tweet. So I've been sending you articles this week, hoping you'll read past the first few paragraphs, and you have. I'm so proud.
Sam, didn't you know that like 4 paragraphs is totally the limit? And even then, when it's longer than a tweet, it's very, very draining on my attention span.
You are the reason that they bury actual facts at the end of newspaper articles that are meant to sway your opinion.
That is probably true. It's because, what's that line from The Simpsons where he's like, I'm a middle-class male. I'm a white middle-class male. Everybody cares what I think.
I'm a white male, aged 25 to 55. Everyone listens to what I say. Something like that. Now, no, this is not a white male aged 25 to 55 or whatever it is. This is a 90-year-old World War II vet who has finally been able to come out as herself. And I just thought this was really, really nice and that we should talk about it on the show.
Well, can I tell you, Sam, that I read past the first 4 paragraphs, which you'd be very proud of. And one of the things that I really liked was in the 5th paragraph.
Yes!
Victory! It was a quote from the girl that they were interviewing. So basically, this person had been kind of in the closet their entire life until after their partner had passed away, and she's 90 now, and her name is Patricia Davies, and she's now come out of the closet and said, well, I'm trans and I want to be recognised as a woman, which is fair enough, I think.
And one thing that I really like, she's been quite open with her story, Patricia. She's talked about the fact that she's known since she was 3 that she was, as she labels it, in the wrong body. But she's also had support throughout her life from different people. Like, she wasn't totally isolated. Her mother supported her. Her wife supported her. Her wife called her Patricia, called her wife, you know, and things like that. So even if she wasn't kind of out in the same way that Andrew is with bullhorns and streamers, she was, you know, out. She had a support network, and that was really a positive take home for me. I thought that was really nice.
Well, one of the things that I think would have been really challenging is when she was serving in the war, and she said, I had to keep my mouth shut about being transgender. You couldn't flaunt that as it would have been a disaster. So I can only imagine the kind of thing that she's talking about when she said it would have been a disaster.
Well, in World War II, one of the big things, particularly in the States, was getting a blue card. So if you were found to being engaged in indecent practice, so anything homosexual, if you were, I guess people would have called it, I guess, cross-dressing, not for the purposes of like breaking into a brothel or something dumb, then you were blue-carded, and it was a dishonourable discharge, and everybody knew that you were like this sexual deviant. It was this label that followed you. That's assuming you didn't suffer violence for it. So, you know, people were really, really secretive about who they really were.
One thing that I kind of wondered about the story, and of course, if Patricia, if you're listening to this, please tell me. One of the things that I wondered when I read it is the story says that she came out publicly after her wife had passed away. So her wife has been dead for about 6 years now. And I wonder if that was like a just coincidence, like that she had waited for her most significant other to pass away before coming out, or whether she was like, oh, I'm going to spare her from what other people might say about me.
Or alternatively, as some famous figures in Australia have found when they came out as trans, she might have been worried that her marriage wouldn't be recognised if her gender was, because it would have then been same-sex marriage. Gasp! We can't have that.
It's very interesting, and I would actually argue that doesn't make it same-sex marriage, but I don't know. I'm a bit all, well, at the time that they got married, they both identified as as opposite sexes.
Well, no, she didn't, but for legal purposes she did. But that doesn't change the fact that if she legally changed her gender, then it would be a same-sex marriage. Two women would be married.
You can't take it back, Sam.
Well, the Australian government has tried multiple times. You're on 101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam.
Cut me up like a knife and I feel it deep in my bones.
Empty Closet Radio, because no one wants to be stuck in the closet.
Promise me no promises.
101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. And we were talking before we started to move towards talking a bit about marriage equality, but before we kind of come back to that, because we are going to loop back to that, Andrew, in a positive way, there's some really horrific news coming out this week there's still not a lot of details on, that kind of it makes me really angry, because it reminds me of how far different groups of different places in the world and humanity as a whole can have to go towards recognizing things. So for those of you who've been following the news in Chechnya, which is part of the Russian Federation, there's been reports from the kind of opposition-led newspapers and from human rights activists that gay men are being kidnapped between the ages of 15 and 55, or thereabouts, 16 and 55. Anyone suspected of being gay, and they're disappearing.
Because as soon as you hit 55, you suddenly are not a sexual being anymore.
Yeah, stereotypes for the win. But this is really, really horrific, because there's 3 confirmed deaths so far, but there's more than 100 people missing. And the official word from the government is that it can't be happening because there's no gay people in Chechnya. Because if they were gay, their families would have driven them out or sent them to the place they can't come back from long ago, which is horrific, like horrific.
And all of this stuff to do with, rounding up people and, secretly killing them, it's all very reminiscent of something that we'd all rather not have had happen, which is the Nazis in World War II rounding up another minority group and then, killing them by various systematized methods. I do find that it's really interesting that everybody's talking about Russia. Like in the last couple of months, pretty much like since Trump's been really in the limelight, everybody's been talking about Russia, and Russia is involved in this. Is that correct?
Chechnya is part of the Russian Federation. So Russia is not just one country in the same way that the UK is not a country. There's several countries there. The driving force behind this, as far as or the claim is that the driving force behind this is a Russian gay rights group has been applying for permits to stage gay pride parades in the North Caucasus region, which is where Chechnya is. And for those of you who might have longer memories, you might remember that Putin's Russia is very, very homophobic. There's lots and lots of laws about the fact that you can't be publicly gay.
They took down the statue that they had of Steve Jobs or the iPhone or whatever it is when Apple had Tim Cook come to the leadership, because Tim Cook's openly gay and proud of it, really proud of it. And so they were like, that's it, we're taking down all evidence that this company exists.
Yeah, so it's, and the thing that really angers me about when this came in was there were so many people who were like, got to respect their right to an opinion or their right to govern themselves. No, not when it impedes on somebody else's right to live.
It's hardly governance. It's not like the people want this, right? It's just, leadership that's doing what they feel like, not what would be good for the people.
Yeah, it's ultra-conservatism dressed up as nationalism. But anyway, the group that's applied for these permits expected to be knocked back, and they applied anyway because they can then take those knockback permits to the European Court of Human Rights and say, that we can't be ourselves in public, like we can't be open, we live in fear of persecution, and bring a human rights case against the Russian government. What's happened instead is that a command has been given kind of, under the radar a little bit for a prophylactic sweep. And they've set about finding and arresting closeted gay men, partly by posing as men looking for dates on social networking sites. None of these people actually demonstrate their orientation publicly. None of them are out, let alone proud, because in the caucus that's equal to a death sentence. And they're forcing the issue, and these people are disappearing. And it's horrendous. And the government is denying that it's happening. And so this is an ongoing situation.
What can, if you're in that situation, what could you do about it? You'd obviously just try and steer clear of all social media because it's clearly full of people trying to trap you and kill you.
This is the sort of thing that produces asylum seekers and refugees. I think this is something that a lot of Australians don't understand because we don't have a lot of conversations about asylum seekers and refugees that aren't labelling them illegal immigrants or boat people. But the fact of the matter is some asylum seekers leave the country because the country is in ruins, and some asylum seekers leave a country because they're part of a targeted group, and it doesn't matter if it's a very small group, and it doesn't matter if the rest of the country is plodding along just fine. If you're in that targeted small group, it's dangerous for you to stay there, and you have the right to flee and seek asylum somewhere else. So there's men that are fleeing. They've not, as far as anybody can tell, been kidnapped. They've actually just fled the country. They've gone to other parts of Russia that are not quite as homophobic, or they've left Russia altogether and are seeking asylum elsewhere.
It's all crazy town. I'm so glad that none of that ever happens here in Cairns that I know of.
And here's hoping that we don't continue down the extreme conservative track and end up that way, because it all starts somewhere. You're on 101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam.
I hear a million voices in my head.
Empty Closet Radio, 9 p.m. Tuesdays, 101.9 Coast FM.
You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam, and we've just been talking about some rather intense bits, so we're gonna loop back a bit to Australia. And we were talking about marriage equality before, and there's a really great, I think it's a really great initiative going on at the moment, which I also forced you to watch the video.
Forced me, Sam. It was the longest minute and a half of my life. Everybody who's listening to this has obviously listened for more than a minute and a half to our drivel, so thank you. We're talking about this new idea, or the new thing that you can get. It's called an acceptance ring. So it just reminds me, it echoes of friendship bracelet. And what are those other ones, where you get a necklace and half a heart, and it's split down the middle and it only fits with the other half that you give to your partner. Friendship bracelets or whatever they're called, I don't know. And it plays on this idea that, when you give a wedding ring to someone, it's really a wedding band, and it goes all the way around the finger, and it keeps going. If you followed that band, it would just keep going and taking you round and around and around and around in circles, which reminds a lot of people of conversations in marriage.
Or on this show on occasion.
Sam and I are not married, just for the record. Although Sam, it would be fun. So this is, it's like a wedding band that has part of it removed, like part of it is missing, so it doesn't join up.
So it's an incomplete circle.
Totally incomplete circle, but it's not incomplete in so much as it will fall off your finger. It's just like a little bit incomplete.
So the purpose of this was done with the Australian Marriage Equality Council, like the group that are really pushing for marriage equality.
That big group of companies that should be just getting on with their business.
Well, they're not the Marriage Equality Council, but they're working with the Marriage Equality Council. So, Marriage Equality, the group, they're on social media, they have ads on TV, you know, and then there's a list of lots and lots of companies in Australia, but 13 in particular big ones that have, you know, their CEOs have all signed a letter personally to Malcolm Turnbull saying, we've kind of had enough of this, let's just have a free vote in Parliament, get it out of the way. That's causing all sorts of friction with the government at the moment. But they've backed this initiative as well, and it's called Until We Belong, and the website is untilwebelong.com. No underscores or anything like that.
Nothing tricky. There's nothing tricky about that website.
And so what they're doing is they have this ring, and the ring has this gap in it, and you're meant to wear it with the gap to the top. And the idea is that you wear this ring on your traditionally wedding finger, with the purpose of people commenting on it and you instigating conversations about marriage equality. You know, it's like there's a lot of people who it's promoted like, I'm going to wear this and I won't wear another ring until my sister can also get married. My friend, my daughter, my mother, whatever. Me. And it's not being run for profit. The rings cost $3.50, which is to cover production and shipping. So the idea is that it's a not-for-profit, not grassroots initiative, but trying to get conversations going between people. And I just think it's really, really cool. And it's quite touching as well. Like, the video made Andrew really happy.
And you know that it's designed by an Australian designer. That makes me even more happy.
This is true. Now, I suspect they might have run out of stock for the moment.
Because I checked the stock levels, like, right now while we're talking, and it says, oh no, we're out of stock. But that's a good thing, because it means, like, they've had so much support from so many people.
They're also going to, if you are interested, like I am, because I only found this today, you can put your email in to be notified when there are more in stock, and basically, you know, get these conversations happening in day-to-day life, because it can be hard to instigate a conversation without seeming preachy. I'm sure Andrew knows because he's friends with me, and I'm sure I'm very preachy.
I would like to think that I'm not preachy mostly. Sometimes I can be when I feel that it really, really matters to be that way.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think I'm preachy. I don't know. If you're listening to the show, you've put up with me this long.
Why don't you tweet us and let us know?
You're on 101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam.
My eyes in your direction. Come a little closer.
Empty Closet Radio. Follow us on Twitter.
101.9 Coast FM, you're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. And Sam, that's pretty much all we have time for. If you would like to catch up on any of the things that we've spoken about on the show, we'll put up that story for that World War II veteran who came out as trans, and we'll also put up the link so that you can order your own Until We Belong ring, which assists you with conversations around marriage equality, really.
And it shows it's a visible way to show your support for marriage equality.
Anyway, all that and more, if you check out our social media page, you'll be able to see it there. Just search for Empty Closet Radio, hit the like button, or if you're on the blue tweeting bird, make sure you search for @emptycloset_AU, and you'll see all of our stuff there as well.
You're on 101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam.
Thanks for listening to The Empty Closet, brought to you by 1019 Coast FM Cairns.